Okay, I'm sold. Okay, To Be Hero X, I'm sold. After watching the first episode of this series, I'm on board. And yes, I wasn't really sure if I was going to actually watch this show because, yes, all the studios that's actually working on this project are Chinese-based. It's still a production from Japan. This is still Aniplex themselves. There's a lot of Japanese people involved with the actual project, but I really wasn't sure just because of the fact that I have so much freaking Japanese anime to watch that I don't have time for Chinese one too. But I've heard a lot of good things about the director themselves. They worked on Link Click, and there's a lot of praise for that series, so I figured, okay, maybe here. But yes, what actually pushed me to watch this show and give it a try is the fact that all the PVs look incredible. What was kind of pushing me back was the fact that all the PVs have like this hodgepodge of like 5 different art styles going for it. But it does seem to come together for the actual final project, and I'll get into more of that when I get my impressions of the show. But yes, the series is doing a really good job so far of kind of nailing the corporatizing of heroes. Yes, we're going for the boys or the super crooks type of thing here, where it's the darker side of being a hero. The pressures that it puts upon the hero themselves, how that can kind of push them over the edge, and yes, people wanting to look up to those individuals and the jealousy that they might have. But anyhow, let's just jump right into it. To Be Hero X opens up in a world where heroes are born through the trust and the belief that people have in them. It sort of makes it out as if any individual can become a hero just by other people putting their faith and their trust in them, giving them strength and power. The more trust you have, the more people that trust you, the stronger you become. And we zero in on Lin Ling, and Lin Ling is working for this advertising company that is producing advertisements and commercials for one of the biggest heroes out there, which is Nice. And it seems at the time he's trying to make the advertisement sort of showcase the fact that they have this #1 hero competition coming up. And he's also trying to instill within the advertisement the idea that anybody can become a hero, much to the anger of his boss, not wanting it to really focus on anybody but their hero Nice. Now, unfortunately, Lin was under the understanding that he was supposed to send the initial cut for this advertisement to Nice's agent, and this leads to him getting fired. We're cut to this rooftop. Lin is kind of upset about this whole situation. He's kind of expressing his frustrations. At the same time, there's all these billboards and advertisement that features Nice, and he's with his girlfriend Moon, who's another superhero, and they're kind of a bunch of advertisement that's pretty much about, relationships, getting a place to stay, and all this kind of stuff. And over time, Lin is getting a little frustrated and even jealous about the fact that Nice is in the position that he is. All the way to the point where he pretty much says, Nice, you're going to get old someday, and then you'll become a nothing. And then suddenly, Nice appears, just floats down right in front of him, just kind of strolls right past Lin, gives him the signature point, and just walks off the edge. And yes, doesn't fly, just splat right on the ground, just dies. And Lin is shocked by this, like, holy crap, why didn't he fly? He can fly, can't he? Why did he just jump off there? Well, very quickly, Miss J, who is the agent that works for Nice, suddenly shows up with all of her boys. They're looking for Nice, and he's like, he just jumped off the side of the cliff. Well, they quickly apprehend him, take him to an abandoned building where Lin's like, hey, Miss J, you know who I am. I work for that agency. I sent you the advertisement. You know who I am. I didn't do anything. Well, she's on the phone and she's talking to somebody about, making up excuses that Nice is currently training or something like that. She very quickly starts to question Lin, what happened? And he's like, he just walked by me and jumped. He didn't say anything at all. Oh yeah, he gave me the signature point. Well, as Lin tries to flee, she ends up chucking a paint can that knocks him over the head, and they tackle him down, and then realize at that point that he kind of looks like Nice with white hair. So they pretty much change his entire appearance, make him look like Nice, and have him stand as a stand-in. See, the interesting thing here is that, yes, in this world, anybody can technically become a hero, as long as you have enough people that have their faith and their trust in you. So their idea here is just to cover up the death of Nice completely and have Lin step in as Nice. Over time, people will see the new Nice, that they don't even know it's him, and their trust will be placed upon him, and he'll become stronger over time. And sure enough, as he's doing different appearances and whatnot, his strength is starting to build up. He's getting stronger and stronger. Well, things were going nice, but then it gets more complicated in the idea that, yes, eventually, publicly, he needs to make an appearance with Nice's girlfriend. And sure enough, when he appears in front of her, he does the signature Nice moves and looks all elegant and everything like that, reaching out his hand to his girlfriend, and she thankfully accepts it, and this is like heaven for him. Because yes, as it turns out, Lin was a massive, massive fan of Moon. They end up having an appearance at a talk show, which ends up being overtaken by a guy named Enlighter, who is this guy that has apparently been looking into Nice for a long time, trying to expose the fraud that is Nice. And he ends up incorporating a lot of things to sort of put the test upon Nice as to if he's a fraud or not. Trying to find out if Nice actually is Moon's girlfriend, he asks questions like, how many commercials has Moon been in? And yes, because Lin actually made the commercials for Moon, because he was at this ad agency, he knew the exact amount of commercials that were made, and yes, even how long they were. But then he throws a very difficult question upon Lin. Is Moon your actual girlfriend? Which, yes, this is shocking to Lin. He can't outdo the lie detector because, yes, Moon isn't actually his girlfriend, she's Nice's girlfriend. So the way that he overcomes this is pretty much the truth. The idea that, yes, for the longest time, Moon has always been Lin's goddess. So instead of saying that he's a girlfriend, he says, no, she's not my girlfriend. The lie detector says he's telling the truth. Oh, we found out the truth. We found out you're actually a fraud. And he says, no, she's actually my goddess, which actually ends up being true because she's basically his goddess. She's always looked up to her. Well, this all goes downhill from here as Enlighter ends up bringing in the last stage challenge, which is to bring in Lin's old boss, which apparently has been overcome by fear and the power of fear. Yes, in this world, trust can make you a hero, but fear can make you a villain, essentially. But yes, his boss has apparently filed for bankruptcy, he's gone downhill, he's had to fire everybody, and all this has led to him becoming very powerful as this being with fear. Lin is doing pretty good as Nice, taking down his boss, and eventually his boss gets even more powerful to the point where Lin can't even overcome his strength. As Lin is struggling, he's starting to have self-doubts on the idea that he can even fill the shoes of Nice. He's not as powerful as Nice is, and he starts to recall a lot of the words that his boss told him, the idea that he will always be average, he'll never be a hero, and that he should accept that he'll always be a nobody. But as Moon calls out to him, he recalls the fact that, yes, he always dreamed of becoming a hero. It sort of pushes himself to overcome his own doubts, eventually standing up and becoming a hero like he's always kind of sloganed. He takes down his boss, everybody's happy, his reputation is boosting, Miss J is super excited about the fact that this whole thing is working out, and even Lin himself has accepted the idea of not becoming a stand-in for Nice, but actually becoming Nice himself. And that's sort of symbolized by the idea that when he was being pushed down by his boss, he eventually realizes that, yeah, his old self kind of died that day, and he's become Nice himself. And with him kind of telling Miss J that he's going to become Nice, she decides, okay, I guess it's time for you to finally go home. What do you mean home? Yes, apparently all the heroes go to this one massive tower that is the Heroes Tower, and based on their ranking in overall the world, the higher you are in the tower. He goes into his apartment, it's massive, he strips down, jumps onto his bed before realizing that, yes, laying in the bed beside him is Moon. And as he kind of covers her up with a sheet and goes to leave, he realizes something very shocking. And I'll leave that up for people to watch in case you have not watched the episode yet. So my thoughts on Tu Bian Yingxiong X so far. Well, let's start with visually, because I think this is the big sticking point for me personally, as, yeah, this show is very different. This show is very, very different. Now, watching the PVs, I really wasn't sure how they were going to execute the different styles, because the PVs were showing me CGI that looks very much so like Arcane. Then I was seeing a bunch of shots that were kind of a comic book style, comic book animation that you get from the West. And yes, I was seeing a lot of standard Japanese animation that was happening in there. Some older style Japanese animation. It's all over the place. I think I've seen like 5 different styles from the PVs. And I really wasn't sure if it was going to be one of those cases where each episode would have a different style, like a different studio would take over for this episode, and each of them would tell sort of a cohesive story. What I'm getting a sense from this first episode is that the priority animation style will be this CGI/Arcane style of animation. It's a very kind of more detailed, textured type of style of CGI. And then every sequence where the character is going to be recalling something, you're going to have a flashback, some sort of story is being told on the side, that's when they're going to utilize other animation styles. With this particular episode, it utilizes kind of a Western comic book animation style for the whole segment where Lin is recalling what sort of gave him that inspiration and overcoming his own self-doubts, seeking out his own potential and overcoming the past Nice. And if that's the method they choose to go with, I don't think it'll be too much of a problem. I do like the look of the CGI. It's just, unfortunately for myself, I prefer it to be 2D animated, and the 2D animated segments look really, really good. So I don't know. I don't know how much they'll end up utilizing that. I think one of the other PVs sort of gave me the sense that it was going to be changing realities, because they had this one character that was doing a little finger snap thing and the style would change. And I was wondering if that was going to be like a reality shifting, but I don't know. We'll see. The way they utilize it here worked. I hope it works for the rest of it. I think the only thing that kind of tells me that this might not be the standard from episode 1 is the fact that with a lot of the other characters they have shown, they haven't shown them in this CGI style. So I don't know if that will actually even be the case. We'll see. It could be kind of jarring in the end unless they keep it pretty consistent each episode. Outside of that, music was fantastic. Obviously, Suwano Hiroyuki. You get those moments where the music starts to kick up. But even outside of that, a lot of the choice of the music itself worked really good in this episode. Especially like the whole scene where Nice first comes by Lin and jumps off the side of the building. The music was unsettling and triumphant at the same time. It kind of worked for kind of the feel of what was going on there. You had Nice walking up, and this Nice guy is extremely powerful. This guy is a hero. He's got a lot going for him, and he's walking by this nobody. And you obviously feel unsettled because you assume he's mad at Lin for making his comments about him. But that's not really the case. Something's happening here. And I think it does well to sort of emphasize sort of my curiosity that I have what's going on in the story itself. Which gets me into my thoughts on the show itself. So far, this show is solid. I do feel like this first episode, yes, feels kind of rushed. This first episode feels like it is cramming way too much stuff into one single episode. It kind of makes you wonder if they should have done an extended episode or dropped 2 episodes and then extend the story a little bit more, because it does feel like it's pretty breakneck. You have the opening, he's kind of trying to do his job, he fails his job, Nice walks by, dies, he gets swept up, he's now, he's Nice, they're sweeping him off to different locations, he's getting more powerful, he meets his girlfriend, he gets his first challenge, and then he accepts it. It feels like it's going a little bit too fast. They could have spent a little bit more time having him kind of ease into his position as working as Nice, maybe showing him do a couple of jobs, doing a few appearances, something. It did feel like they try to kind of rush into him accepting being Nice. Even still, I can see a lot of potential in the story if they actually execute on it, and they don't stick to sort of a one-episode story concept here. There's like 10 characters they've revealed so far for this series, and it does seem like based on the PVs, they might actually do one episode for each of these characters, getting their backstory, how they become a hero, what their experiences is being a hero, so that easily itself can fill out half of the episodes they have kind of already planned for this series, which is 24. But either way, I do kind of wonder sometimes if I'm overthinking and giving the series a little bit too much credit too early on, because I do feel like there could be some deep plot lines here. Like, yes, the earlier segments of having Nice walk by Lin. Again, it gives a sense of something's going wrong here. All the billboards, all the videos that are playing in the background are all glitching out, and it makes me kind of wonder what is driving Nice to jump off the building. That's the massive question mark there. By the end of the episode, the idea that seems like they're going for here is that Nice himself was driven to the edge. Miss J doesn't even question it. That's got to be a big sign there. His agent doesn't even question it. She runs over there and says, crap, but she's really quickly trying to figure out what to do next. Okay, he looks like him. You're the next Nice. Let's go. It's gonna be fine. You'll stand in for him. You'll gain that trust that people have, and you'll become strong. I do kind of like that concept there, where pretty much anybody can become a hero. All you have to do is have the trust of people. And so yes, him as a stand-in, it doesn't seem like he's getting the trust that Nice had directly. But as people see him in that position, he's standing there physically, he's gaining that trust, so it doesn't matter if he's Nice or not. That physical person there, Lin, with the cover of Nice on him, is getting more stronger. He's got to build up that trust himself. But yes, the story is going for sort of that corporatizing of the hero. It's going for the darker sides of heroes. It's doing the boys thing. It's doing the super cooks thing, where things aren't always shiny. Everybody sees the poster child. He's up there. He's the hero. But then cut behind the scenes, you see how this is all weighing down upon them. What was that was weighing upon Nice himself that drove him to the edge? Was it the expectations that he had upon him? Lin is talking about how it's great to be you. He's jealous of Nice. But in the end, this guy just jumped off this side of this building. Why? I think based on the fact that you see all the glitching that's happening, I think something was controlling Nice. Something drove him off that edge. But it does seem like based on what Miss J tells Lin, this is an expectation that he'll get to this point at some point. You're going to have that choice at some point. Careful what you choose. Every single one of these heroes will have that point in their life at some point where the expectations and responsibilities get to become too much. And then, of course, we have the whole situation with what happens at the very end, which I guess I can't really dodge it anymore. So spoilers for the end of the first episode that I thought was kind of a, yes, a little bit pushed, but at the same time, interesting hook. The fact that Moon's dead. We find out that Moon herself is dead. So who took out Moon? And is it just really a continuation of this plot against Nice? My assumption, again, based on the glitching billboards, based on the fact that Nice seems like he may have been forced off the edge by somebody else's power. Somebody used some sort of ability that controls people and made Nice walk off of that. Maybe Nice knew that he was going to be pushed off there, knew that he was being controlled, and so he decided to do that next to Lin because he knew that Lin can take over for him. This guy kind of looks like me. Maybe I'll drop off of right here. Miss J's going to know what I'm doing here. Miss J could know more than she's given off. But if somebody did force Nice to walk off that edge, that does imply to me that somebody's trying to take out Nice, and Moon being taken out is another plot to take out Nice. Okay, Moon's going to his apartment. It's his girlfriend. Let's kill Moon while he's away, and then when he comes home, he'll be framed for it. So I think that's the direction they're going to probably go with Lin's story as Nice in the coming episodes, that yes, the news are going to report, he killed Moon. Nice has killed Moon. Because there's a lot of emphasis here on the idea of how quickly a hero themselves can drop. As Miss J kept putting it, it takes a long time to build trust, but one wrong move and you'll lose everything. If your power is based on the trust of the people, how easily can that be lost? It takes one controversy and suddenly everybody goes, oh, they're not the person I thought they were. And then suddenly their power just drops like a rock. They can't do as much as they used to do. So they're thus not as powerful, and thus they're not accomplishing enough stuff. They're not able to save as many people, and thus they go down this spiral of loss. And I think that's what they're probably trying to do. They were trying to drive Nice to the edge. Lin took over his position. They're like, crap, Nice didn't die. Okay, let's take out Moon and frame him for murdering Moon. That'll cause everybody to lose trust in him, and thus he'll become weaker. That's sort of my assumption that they're going to go with the route of the story. And again, I could be overthinking it. I hope I'm not overthinking it. I'm hoping they'll have a pretty decent depth to this whole story. It won't be simple, oh, he's been framed, and now he has to overcome it and figure out who did it in order to clear his name. But we'll see. I think easily my favorite part of the episode was the point in which Lin was being beat down by the boss. And I love how they sort of visually represented the idea of him, for lack of a better term, having that self-actualization moment, where you do have him kind of visualizing the fact that he was standing on that edge. And before, they've already talked about the fact that Miss J covered up the death of Nice by essentially making the corpse of Nice be Lin Ling. So she's like, you literally died. No, Nice didn't die. You died. And you're now Nice. And you have that moment where he's being beat down so much, he's having that realization that I will never be Nice. And so you do have that visual of him standing there. Yes, in 2D animation, this is where they kind of shift the style. You have that visualization there where he's standing with Nice, but this time, Lin Ling falls off the side of the building. And he hits the ground. But then you have Moon come over to him and basically tell him to get up. It's time to get up. It's time to be the hero that you've always wanted to be. Moon was the one that always inspired him to want to become a hero, because her commercials that he always made of her were always talking about, you can be it. You're the one. You can be who you want to be. Believe in yourself kind of thing. So you have that visual where Moon comes down there and picks him up, the one that fell, and then pulled up past Nice at the top of the building. And because Nice at the top of the building turns around and attacks, it sort of makes me believe at that point, and even, confirms it later on, at that point he decided, Lin Ling died. Moon took him away. Now I'm Nice. And now I can take on this enemy. And again, after that, you have that whole scene where he's in the car with Miss J and he says, you're right, I'm not a stand-in. I'm now Nice. It's very interesting. And I'm kind of curious if that will end up being kind of shown throughout the following episodes of his character. It's really cool stuff. It was very impressive. But additionally, yes, I'm super excited for all the other characters they've shown in the PVs, especially Lucky Cyan. I think her character design's fantastic. A lot of the clips that we've seen of her already, it seems like she's some sort of idol character that will then use that trust and the love of people to make herself stronger. That kind of opens the door to my assumption that a lot of these characters, different heroes, will gain their trust and their power through different means. It seems like a lot of what made Nice powerful is advertisement. So he's sort of what we see how a corporation can kind of manufacture a hero. I'm kind of curious if some of the heroes will be built from, strong-arming people. The idea of using political power in order to manufacture a hero. You have an idol character that's able to do it that way. so on and so forth. I'm kind of curious what they can do with it. Again, my biggest struggle will probably be how jarring the visual style can be, but it's been doing good so far. I even love the fact that sometimes they had these really cool transitions, like the moment that Lin walks up to Moon and they hold hands. You have kind of this cool little transition where suddenly the background's being brought in by people, and then suddenly they appear inside the studio. There's some really cool transitions that they've had so far, and I'm hoping they can do clever things with it going forward. But either way, I'm on board. I don't know if I'll be covering this show on a weekly basis, but so far it's really got my interest, and I hope you guys enjoy this video, my first impressions of it so far. If you did, hit the like button down below, comment, let me know if you're going to be checking out or if it's something that's on your radar. Additionally, if you're new here, make sure to subscribe before you leave. I'll be doing first impressions of all the shows of the season. If you like this content and want to support John more, I have links in the description below. Greatly appreciate it. Until next time, y'all take care.